Every car we watched, every listing that we were paying attention to on the last episode failed to sell. Is that because the market is collapsing, or do sellers just have unreasonable expectations? This is Bid Nerds. We're going to talk about that. We're going to make new predictions. The bidding starts now. Bid Nerds is your daily YouTube card game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Hagerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. All right, welcome to a live episode of Bid Nerds, your nerd out on the most interesting cars from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites like Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Car Market, and more. My name is John Polnik. I am your host. We are coming to you live from downtown Las Vegas in the Container Park in Rami Studio, along with my partner Michael Deeb in San Francisco. What's up, Michael Deeb? How you doing?
What's up, JP? I am so excited that we have our favorite guest on the show tonight. Everybody in the nerd herd, please welcome the Persian pillow himself, Sahan. What's up,
What's
bro?
happening, guys? What's up, guys?
How you doing, man? Thank you for joining us. You were late.
Of course. I was late.
Yeah, we'll blame it on Sahan. That works. All right.
Welcome him to the show and kick him under the bus.
Shout out to the Nerd Herd. Thanks for waiting for us to get started, guys. You know, this is a live show. We're always pushing buttons trying to get here on time, but hey, we got it going. All right. If you are new to the show, welcome, and thanks for hanging out. This is the show where we play Prices Right with cars on BAT. We make predictions. We look at the listings. We analyze those listings. We give you our opinion on those cars. We make the predictions of what we think will happen with those listings. And then we always start out every episode by going back to our predictions from the last episode and talking about it, showing you how wrong we were. And on the last episode, we made 3 predictions about cars that I already kind of... I'm going to spoil it a little bit here. All 3 cars failed to sell. So the big question on the table is the market in trouble? We get accused of being clickbait all the time because our thumbnails are always so negative. Oh, market collapse, everything's crashing. Well, it's like, guys, I got to do that. Whenever I put something positive on there, nobody watches. So I've got to put these like fire and flames and sky is falling type stuff. We don't actually believe the sky is falling. But let's be real, there are a lot of things to be concerned about when it comes to the classic and enthusiast car market, and all markets for that matter. Let's face it, there's a lot going on in the world. There are a lot of things affecting the value of everything from cars to homes to gold to your 401k. And we look at cars as investments, not necessarily as good ones, but when you put a bunch of money into something, that's an investment. Good or bad, you're investing. Yeah. So that's why we keep track of things. So we're going to go ahead and get to our predictions from the last episode. But first, we want to shout out to our good friends at Godden Porsche and Godden Classic of Las Vegas. If you are in the market for a classic Porsche, if you need parts for your classic Porsche, or if you want to have your Porsche serviced or restored, Godden Classic is the best place in the world to go. So give them a call at Godden Classic. And if you're going, hey, you guys were really late, it's because I'm not wearing a fine Swiss watch tonight. I'm wearing a plastic watch, and apparently this thing doesn't work. I didn't know what time it was. If I were wearing a fine Swiss watch, it would be on time, because we get our fine Swiss watches serviced at Our Smiths, oursmiths.com. Fine Swiss Repair. They always have a great selection of fine Swiss watches for sale too, so give them a shout. All right, let's get to some predictions from the last episode. Oh, look at that in the chat. Ross Churchhouse is back out there. Thanks. We've missed you for a little bit, Ross. We haven't seen you. You've been working. You've been busy. Is there anyone new in the Nerd Herd tonight? If there's anyone, what's that?
Scott Derrickson wants Sahan to know that he's heading to Seattle tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, that sounds specifically personal. But that's cool. We do that. Ross Churchhouse was also waiting. Like, I went on like 15 minutes early, and Ross was already in the chat room waiting for us, twiddling his thumbs. Half an hour later, we start the show. So there you go. What's up, Ross? And then Randy B called me before the show to say he was leaving. What is it? Sun Valley's Tour de Force, where they, JP, you know, where they take the cars and they close down a part of the highway and they do those high speed runs, like they go 150, 200 miles an hour one direction.
Oh, like the Silver State Challenge, yeah.
Yeah, so they do that in wherever that is, and he's there, and he was at a very exclusive Aston Martin event. I didn't know Randy B was such a name dropper, but he told me, he says, okay, the event is over, I'm heading home. He says, I'm going to be late, and I said, I don't think you're going to be late because we're already running behind schedule. We got all these buttons to press. So Randy B, I'm glad you made it. Randy will have reconciliation numbers for us as we get to them. So welcome everybody to the herd.
If you are new to the show and you're just watching this live, but you're not part of the Nerd Herd, if you're not in the chat, get in there, introduce yourself to everyone. Great people in the chat. That's our favorite part of the show, is seeing what's going on over there, and lots of good resources, and just generally all around good people in the Nerd Herd. So go hang out with everyone, say hello. They'll be sure to say hello to you. We got some hate this week because we published a new style of video. It's just so cringe, right?
Oh,
I mean, it's just like the cringiest video ever, and we have so much fun with it. But like, this is the first time I think we've ever had anyone like we get comments on the videos all the time. There's nothing new to that, but I had to read Bogdan Oros's, he reached out to us on Instagram. This is so good. If you guys, Bogdan, are you watching? Because I was kind of hoping he would join us in the chat tonight. He's like, I don't know why your channel was recommended to me, but within the first minute, I realized it was rage baiting scam. I wish you as little success as humanly possible. That's like, as humanly possible. I'm going to make extra effort just to make sure, as few car enthusiasts as possible, view your scam. I mean, his tears are coming out of this message. I'm like, this is awesome. So, you know, I had to tell him, hey, Bogdan, come and join us in the chat, say hello, and introduce yourself, Toodles. So Bogdan, I hope you're here. And if Bogdan shows up, everybody, hopefully he'll tell us all how he feels. The cope is real with poor Bogdan. All right, let's get to the
awesome.
How great is
duly
that?
Duly noted and achieved. As little success as possible. Like, well, we're right
humanly possible.
Already made it.
I wish you as little success as humanly possible. How can we do worse? What are you talking about? Have you seen our show?
From Bogdan's keyboard to God's ears. So there you go.
Oh my gosh. I was like, go ahead and tell all 135 people on your Instagram page that we suck.
Yeah.
Good job.
Exactly.
All right, way to go, Bogdan. Okay, we made some predictions on the last episode. Let's start. Which car are we going to start with, Michael Deeb?
JP, let's start with the Mazda, because this one's going to tell us the least. So JP, circling back to the 1968 Mazda Cosmo Series 2 that was on Bring a Trailer. This car was listed by Rafi out of Houston, Texas, showing 13,000 miles, but true mileage unknown. This is a rotary engine with just incredibly iconic 60s era looks, manual transmission. JP, I don't know that we got a confirmation of this, but I think we suspect that all the Mazda Cosmos are right-hand drive. I don't know that this car was ever prepared for export out of Japan to anywhere in the Western world, let alone the United States. But this car is here on a Texas title, and as cool as it is, it's so rare and so niche and so right-hand drive. We all wondered if this car would bring the money that we all think it deserves based on the performance and the good looks, and in this particular case, the condition of the car. So, John, I started the bidding at $88,000, and I told you when I gave that to you that I wasn't sure if it would sell for that number. You took the over at 90 grand, and then we had Zach Miller in as our guest third nerd on last show. And Zach took an over on me by he basically split the difference at $88,500. Sahan, I'm sure, Sahan, I don't think there's a car I could name that you don't know. But what do you think of the Mazda Cosmo? I mean, like, this is a really good looking car. 900 cc's, 125 horsepower. I mean, this thing's making more than 100 horsepower per liter in 1968, but they're all right-hand drive, and that's what I think is going to hold it back from ever bringing the big money in the United States, because no American in the world is going to convert to right-hand drive just to drive a cool car. What do you think this one would have brought in good condition on BAT out of Houston, Texas a couple of days ago?
Okay, well, one, I just would make the argument that that's not entirely true. People spend big money on right-hand drive Skylines, both new and old, right now. I mean, upwards of $500,000, and a '70s Skyline GTR will pull between $120,000 and $300,000 today. This car is super cool. It's very interesting, unique. You'll never see another one on the road. But I mean, I feel like this should be a six-figure car, but it's not. At least not today. So
so what's your number?
I'm assuming. I think I'm sure it failed to sell, obviously, based on what you guys said earlier, and it probably failed to sell at somewhere between let's say 87 or 87.5 or something like that.
87.5, Sahan, would make you the closest. Our car hammered at $86,000, where it failed to sell on 31 bids. So, Sahan, you bring a good argument, counterpoint to my argument that Americans won't drive right-hand drive. Yet we have seen this proliferation of young-timer Skyline GTRs and some of the vintage versions of those cars bringing big collector money. So if that part is true, which it is in the United States, why doesn't this car get the love? To me, this is equally as cool as any vintage Skyline. I certainly wouldn't compare it to the more modern cars from the 80s and 90s that are making, seriously sports car, supercar horse performance figures. But as a vintage right-hand drive, why doesn't this car get the love? It's got everything going for it, except to me, the steering wheel's on the wrong wheel. But that isn't an argument that would really hold water based on what the Skylines are doing. So what do you think it is, Sahan?
This car just doesn't quite have it doesn't have the same popularity, right? Because there's not the newer it's not associated with the RX-7 the way the old Skylines are associated with the new Skylines, right?
Yeah.
So
sure.
Because it doesn't have that association, it's not pulling the young timers back into this car. So there are young timers that love GTRs and are like, oh, I want something with a little more class, or I want something that's like a little different, and they find themselves like there's a direct line from those to the older GTRs, where there's not that same direct line here from the RX-7 to the Cosmo. So I think that's probably it. Also, this probably doesn't give you the same status, maybe. If you're going to spend $150,000, if you're going to spend $100,000 plus on an old car like this, some people want other people to know what it is. And you know what I mean? Like, unless you're the guy that's like, I'm going to spend six figures and I want nobody to know what I'm driving, which is a person, but there are probably less of those people. So, I just think there's a much smaller group that's willing to spend big money on a car that's kind of as unique as this. And that's probably what held it back. Also, to John's point, like, this isn't the thing. It's not the car. And trying to get big money for something that's not the car right now is probably hard.
Yeah, I don't think there's a young timer in the world that knows that this car even exists, and I think the heritage is really, really important. You're absolutely right. Let us know what you guys think of the results of this little Mazda Cosmo. Do you think that this failure to sell is indicative of a downturn in the market, or is it really just that the seller had an unrealistic expectation for this car to bring more? I personally think it's a combination of both. But we're going to look at some of the results from other cars that we talked about on the last episode and see if that squares up. What's the next car on the list, Deeb?
All right, shout out to Philip, who missed the Yahtzee by $250 on the Mazda. JP, we're going to now check in on the 1993 Ford Mustang SVT Cobra that was listed by our buddy Ingo at Ganao Auto Works out of Concord, California. This car was on Bring a Trailer and had just 228 miles on the odometer. Ingo's client bought this car on BAT in August of 2023, and we thought that this car where it was sitting when we covered it was already over what he paid for it. And so we were expecting big results for this car. I actually predicted that this would set sort of a new high water mark for the 93 SVT Cobra. So JP, I started the bidding at $93,000 on this black sub 300 mile example. And I was feeling really confident because you came in 10 grand under me at $82,000. And Zach Miller sort of split the difference again, giving us a bid of $86,000. So, Han, what do you think of this car? Beautiful presentation. It did just sell last fall, but the seller corrected mileage discrepancy on the Carfax. So now the car's got a clean bill of health, super low miles, very collectible car. What do you think would have happened with this better presentation second go round?
I mean, this car is. Do you mind telling me what it sold for the previous time?
62,000 is what he bought it for. Fixed up the Carfax and brought it back to market with like 3 more miles on it 8 months later.
He fucked up. Sorry. I mean,
the beep was a little slow there. Sorry.
Sorry. I apologize for that. He made an error. That was probably not the smart thing to do. I mean, it's a beautiful car. It should bring 70 grand. It's, these cars are, finding a car with this mileage, with this rarity in this condition is near impossible. I mean, this is a blue chip as far as Fox bodies go. But like, people saw that it sold for that much, 8 months ago. And what I'm seeing across the board is that people that are trying to resell cars that they bought in 23 or earlier in 24 are failing to sell. This car probably failed to sell at 65 or something like that. Like,
very good. That's another winning bid. Our car hammered at $68,000 where it failed to sell on just 22 bids. JP, do you agree with Sahan's take that like a lot of these people that thought they could flip their cars from last year are kind of getting burned in a soft market and sort of a, let's just call it a volatile political climate as we are, on sort of almost the final mile into an election?
Yeah, I think 3 weeks ago or even a couple of weeks ago, maybe this wouldn't have bared out the way it did. What's happened last weekend is a big deal, and we're seeing effects of that ripple through the economy in general. But ultimately, I think the bigger problem with a Fox body Mustang, and it will continue to be with the Fox body Mustangs, is that there are still a lot of cheap ones out there. If you go on Craigslist or Marketplace, you can still find one for $5,000. That doesn't mean everyone's going to be in the comment, no, you can't. Not this car, right? You're not getting this car for $5,000, but you can get one that looks a lot like it for not much more money. And a lot of them are clapped out pieces of junk. But when you're spending $50, $60, $100,000 on something, you don't want people to go, is that a clapped out piece of junk or is that a really, really nice version of this car? It's when you see an M3 or a 911, there are no cheap 911s. There's no $5,000 version of an air-cooled 911, but there is with this car, and I think that's going to continue to hold it back. There were so many of these made. There were so many of them beat up. And yeah, again, I know this is a special one, and I know this one has low miles, and I know it has a lot of great things going for it, but I think it's going to be a bigger and bigger challenge to try to get premium money for cars like this as the economy and as people continue to be cautious, and only look. I think what's going on is people want the blue chip cars, and that's about it. What do you guys think of the results of this Fox body Mustang? A beautiful car in great condition, presented very well, but didn't meet the reserve. Do you guys think that's because people are worried and aren't spending money? Or do you think it's because this car is just a Fox body Mustang and it's going to be hard? Let us know what you think in the comments, and we will move on to the next car. What do we got, Deep?
All right, JP, let's check in on the 1997 Porsche 911 Carrera Targa. This car was on Bring a Trailer out of Escondido, California, showing 76,000 miles. JP, we like this car. You and I both like this car, and I thought this would do well, despite I think there was one little, sort of history mark on the like a super minor, vague thing on the Carfax, and we wondered if that would hold this car back because there was nothing specific on the Carfax about the alleged incident. So, John, I gave us a bid of $81,993. You took the over, and I mean way over, at $99,993. And Zach Miller was our third nerd on the last show. He joined us and gave us a bid, took the under at $80,000. Sahan, what do you think? Nice, fair mileage, silver black Targa manual, but they says there's an accident report on the Carfax, but the Carfax says, we think there was an accident during this 12-month period, but we have no details on it. And that's it. Which is really kind of criminal, if you ask me. That's like just spreading rumors. So, do you think that would affect the value, and what value would you give it as this car would have hammered a couple days ago?
100%. Porsche people, and not even just Porsche people, but like anybody spending that much money on one of these old cars does not want to have something like that. If not because they don't like, even if they don't care personally, they know that if they want to turn around and sell it one day, they're going to answer that same question, right? And having something like that, it almost would have been better to have a small accident and have pictures of it so that they could show what actually happened versus something where they don't know, right? People don't like that, as it turns out. Also, it's a Targa, and I think 993 Targas are probably not as sought after. But it's that's tough. It's a nice car. Obviously it failed to sell. 75.
75? Damn good guess. Geez, Sahan, you should have been on the last show. You would have won every one of them. Let's see here. Okay, so our car, JP, hammered for $76,500 where it failed to sell on 30 bids. My first question to you, as we give a congratulations to Indy, who guessed $77,000 in the chats, is that result, you think, because of the news over the weekend, as this car's auction ran the course where it straddled pre-assassination attempt and post-assassination attempt, or do you think that has as much to do with the vague notion of a potential accident on the Carfax? Because certainly this was a nice car with a decent presentation, and it didn't even get to any of our numbers. It was basically below the lowest number that we guessed. More to do with the Trump situation and the news, or more to do with the Carfax, combination of both? What's your read, JP?
Yeah, just real quickly, I want to let everybody know we apologize for Sahan's audio. Sahan, we're going to need you to find some headphones that you can plug in. Because you're really clipping out really bad. So I apologize to everyone for the poor audio. But that said, yeah, I don't know. I didn't watch this auction close, and I wish I had, because I wonder if there was something else in the comments to get to the bottom of this one, because this one really is a head scratcher. This car should have done better. So we shall see. Sorry guys, we're a little distracted. Deeb, close this one out, will you?
Close out my audio?
No, talk about the car for a little.
Oh yeah, absolutely, very good.
Sorry, everybody.
I wasn't sure where to go with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, listen, a nice Targa like this should have brought $90,000. When we're talking about something that's nearly 25% off. We typically say that an accident in the Carfax could cost a car as much as 30%. So to me, reading the tea leaves on this one, I would say that we're looking from what should have been a retail value for a car in this nice condition with fair mileage. The retail number that was hit by the audience on Bring a Trailer really represents them taking into account this potential accident to the rear end of the car so many years ago. So I actually think that number is right on the money. And the fact that it didn't hit reserve at $76,500 leads me to believe that BAT had an unrealistic reserve set. And I just don't understand what they're doing. Like, who makes the decisions at BAT that allows for such unrealistic reserves to go live on their platform? Because, when you have this many failures to sell, I think that is, sort of negative marketing for the brand. You don't want people who are ethered up to bring their car to market to your site, hesitating about should I or shouldn't I commit because I don't know if it'll sell. they have to do a better job of policing the reserves up front to maintain a really high sell-through rate, so that when somebody's ethered up and they get their photographs and they're committed to selling their car, they rush to their platform, their device, and they submit their car, and now they're committed, and you're going to get the sale. This is just bad policing on BAT's part, and I don't think you could argue around that at all. At 76.5, this car should have sold.
I think the car should have gone for more. I think people were distracted on that specific day, but I think look, we made 3 bids, or we watched 3 specific listings on the last episode, but you guys kind of behind the scenes, inside baseball thing, we have multiple cars on our little spreadsheet, and it was funny, the cars that I picked apparently were all cars that we reviewed, and they all failed to sell, where there were 3 other cars on our list that we didn't review, the Deeb picked, and they all sold. Here is, I just pulled up the results page on Bring a Trailer. I haven't analyzed this at all, but you look at, this DeLorean was bid to 51 grand, didn't sell. 51 grand, that car should have sold. And everything else sold. You got to go down halfway down the page to find a 28-year-old 1965 Aston Martin Mini Cooper that didn't sell for 11.5. That's just a weird car. The stuff that's not selling, here's a 40,000 mile 87 911 turbo that was bid to 112. That car probably should have brought a little bit more money. So I can see that one not selling, but most everything is still selling. It still looks like probably 70 to 80% of everything on BAT's listings is actually selling. So it's really hard to make an argument that the sky is falling, that the market is crashing. I think people are somewhat distracted, and some of the cars that were bringing really big money maybe are softening or at least correcting. But Sahan, I think you said it too, is that, it's a Targa 993. That's just not the most popular of the 993 variants. I know convertibles probably the even less popular, but the hardtop Targa, people know that Targa on the 993 really is just a hardtop convertible. And in a lot of ways, they're worse than a convertible when it comes to performance and all those things that people don't like about convertibles. So I don't know. I think the 993 Targa is struggling. It's a beautiful looking car, but I'm kind of with you, Deeb. Maybe it should have sold. I don't know. I'm indecisive on this one. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. We've got new predictions that we're going to talk about. So we'll be right back. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. All right, we are back. Thanks for sticking around. Our Smiths, Anthony is usually hanging out with us, but he is on the road. He's on a road trip. I don't know if I'm spoiling it or not, but he got a really cool car and he's driving back from Texas. I'm not going to say what it is because I'll let him tell you guys. It's a really cool car.
I have permission.
Okay.
We can tell. He's okay with us telling. He was telling JP and I to keep a lookout that he wanted to get a 996, and he's owned 996s before. But he went all in and got a 996 40-year anniversary car, and he is a proud new owner. So, JP, I'm sure he sent photos to you, but I remember at 11 o'clock at night, him sending me photos of the car, and he was excited that he consummated his deal. And he's road tripping that thing home. Congratulations, Anthony, on your new whip. That car is badass.
All right. Well, congrats. Safe travels. We will get him in the chat on the next episode. Okay, Randy B says the reserve sell-through rate on BAT was only 50% yesterday, and I think that that's I haven't confirmed that. I'm gonna take his word for it. That's the lowest I think ever. I don't think we've ever seen one that low, but it certainly doesn't look like that today. And oddly enough, it didn't look like that on Sunday, the day after the assassination attempt. So it's weird. I think this is why we always talk about whether or not it makes sense to have a reserve at all, right? Like some people run their cars at no reserve, and historically that can work well for you because when you run a car at no reserve, a lot more people pay attention. There's a much more, people have more of a gambling approach to bidding on a car that doesn't have a reserve because any bid could buy that car. So I think it has kind of this thing that just like keeps it going, right? And keeps people, and it ultimately winds up bringing the bids higher, right? Deeb, you've seen this.
It does. It does.
It's a fact.
It's so hard. It's so hard to convince somebody that doesn't understand the auction process, how this works. But as JP was saying, every single bid that is put in is a winning bid for as long as it sits until the next bid comes. So every one of your underbidders remains engaged through the end of the auction. And so all your no reserve auctions quantifiably bring more money, apples to apples, for similar cars that run with a reserve, because every bid is a mystery and not everybody wants to stay engaged or set an alarm and pay attention on the day and the hour that the auction is closing to re-engage. But if somebody's bidding on a no reserve auction, they stay engaged through every day that the car is live right up until the close. And that always winds up bringing the odd.
Yep. We looks like we lost Michael Deeb and Zahan. Are we still streaming?
It's very difficult to explain.
Okay. Yeah. And also too, it's like, people get pot committed. I'm here. I don't want to miss it for another $500. So they just throw another $500, right? They're like, well, maybe it's just a little bit more will be the last one. So they just keep going and going and going. But in today's climate, in a world where you could have something like a god dang assassination attempt, do you really want to have your auction live on a day that something awful could happen? Now, something awful could happen on any given day. But in this climate, I think pretty much everyone would agree that the likelihood of something crazy in the news cycle happening is much higher than it seems like it's ever been. Am I crazy? Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Have you guys ever run an auction no reserve? What was your experience? I'm always curious to see what the nerd herd has to say about their experiences because we always learn new things. But all right, so that's the big question of the day is the market in big trouble? Are people too scared to bid on auctions right now? Or are people just like chilling out going, okay, everything's fine. Let's get back to having fun with cars. I mean, it is summertime. It is the car buying season. Everybody wants to get out there. We've got some really cool listings today. What's the first car on the list?
JP, you selected for us a Porsche 904 replica by Avanti. This car is listed on Bring a Trailer out of Whitestone, Virginia. The car is showing 20,000 miles, but that's true mileage unknown. The car had previously run, or was, I should say, listed on BAT in November of 2020. At that time, JP, the car was listed out of Marietta, Georgia, and was running at that time with a turbocharged 2.5 liter Subaru Flat 4. As the car, and the car was bid to $51,904, where it failed to sell on 36 bids. The car is running now for a second time, but in this instance, JP, the car now is operated by a 3-liter Flat 6 that was rebuilt by, let me read it to you, Air-Cooled Classics before it was installed, and it's running through 46 millimeter PMO carburetors. So this, to me, JP, I think really does enhance the value of the car, because now you're dealing with a real Porsche air-cooled Flat 6, something that's rebuilt. I mean, a 3-liter in this car, like alone, like 180 to 200 horsepower motor would be great. But if it's rebuilt and it's got some big carbs on it, chances are this car is making somewhere between 220 and 240 horsepower. And I'm going to say that it's going to wake this, what is this, like in a 1,300-pound chassis? It's going to wake this thing the hell up. And not to say that the turbocharged Subaru wasn't a cool and torque-rich drivetrain, but I think this, being a normally aspirated and going to be a car that revs, I think this is going to just create the sort of driving characteristic that I think is more befitting of this vintage platform in the first place. So a very interesting car, JP. We know Beck makes one that's infinitely popular. I feel like, and maybe you would argue against this, that the Beck is a more faithful body design to the original Porsche 904 than this one. This one seems to have a riveted on ducktail, and I don't know, there's just a couple of things that don't look right to me on this. Something under the front lower valance seems a little bit off. The interior doesn't quite, I'm not in love with those seats. They look like they came out of a, I mean, did they say Lotus on the
Lotus,
seats?
Yeah,
so
Elise seats, yeah.
So yeah, I just, there's just a few too many liberties taken on this one that it doesn't really work for me. It's not to say that if you gave it to me, I wouldn't enjoy the hell out of it and slap a livery on it and drive the snot out of it. But this one, those Becks bring hundreds of thousands of dollars. This one FTS at 50 grand. Now it's got a Porsche motor. I think it'll do better, but I still don't think it's going to bring Beck money. So, but I don't know a lot about these. So JP, I'll very quickly hand it right back over to you and ask you to give us your thoughts, because I think you might really know the difference between these two kit cars better than I do. What do you think?
I absolutely love this car. These are so much fun. I unfortunately don't know anything about the Avanti kit, but just looking at the pictures, I've driven Tony's. There's a picture of one right over my shoulder. I don't know if you can see that one right there. That's a Beck. This car is here locally in Las Vegas. That's our friend Tony Mazzagati's. That car, look, he has a 3.2 liter flat six engine in that car, and it probably, I don't know what the horsepower is in that thing, but it's definitely, look, the power to weight ratio on a kit like this is equal to or greater than whatever a GT3 has, or even a GT3 RS. Driving this car, this light, with that much power is bonkers. These things are terrifying to drive. It is so dang much fun. And looking at this kit with the tube frame and the suspension, everything about it looks like it's really set up well. I like most of the style choices that this guy has made, except for those seats and seat belts. Those are terrible, but that's very easy to change, luckily. But I like the wheels. I like that weird wing. The body does actually look right. A lot of times, a lot of the kits, some of the other kits that I've seen, the vent is too big over the, the real ones actually had this small vent. I noticed that there's some cracks in the headlight covers. Those are next to impossible to replace. The only place, I think Tony had one break on one of his, and he went to an aviation fiberglass place to get a replacement one. But yeah, this car is just super, super cool. It's got to be a hell of a lot of fun to drive. It's way better with a Porsche flat six in it than it is with the Subaru. Because one thing about these tribute cars or these replicas, you see like the 356 Speedsters or the 550 Spiders, they're all fiberglass body kits for cars that were originally, they had metal bodies. The 904 actually was a fiberglass car. A lot of people, I think, don't realize that. So this car is very true to its original configuration. So with a tube frame and a flat six actual Porsche engine and everything, man, you got a car that's similar or better to the original. I'm in love with this car. It'll be very interesting to see what it brings. Sahan, what do you think of this car? That's you.
I mean, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool car.
Yeah.
I think that it's, to your point, it's obviously better with the Porsche motor and a more value. I'm sure it was a hoot to drive with a turbo 2-liter in it, though. That was probably terribly entertaining, right? It does. It looks super cool. And even kind of beat up as it is, I kind of like it more, to be honest. It feels super drivable. Like I would definitely drive this car. And hopefully somebody's able to get it at a good value and it doesn't fail to sell, because it looks like a ton of fun. And I'm sure the 3-liter gives it plenty of oomph for how light. I mean, how much do these things weigh? Less than 2,000 pounds,
way
or
less
something
than
like
2,000
that.
pounds.
It's like
Way less than
1,300
2,000
pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, this thing probably rips, dude. Like, this is probably so much fun to drive, and to the point that you made, the little things that are, off about it, seats and stuff like that, are super easily replaceable. It's a cool car, super cool car.
What's it going to bring, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, just to remind everybody, when this car had the Subaru engine and it ran in November of I should say November of 20, it failed to sell at $51,900. Now, this is a totally different time, and it's got a totally different engine. It's running a second time. JP, it's currently sitting at $25,904, and it closes on Bring a Trailer in 2 days with the 3-liter Porsche Flat 6. That's 14 bids that it's got right now. JP, I say it's going to do better, but I don't think it's going to sell. I'm going to give you $75,000 is where I think this car will hammer, and I don't think $75,000 will get it. I think this guy's looking for 6 figures or more. My guess is it'll fail to sell at my $75,000, and we'll see it on P-Car Market on Friday or Saturday or whatever, like the next business day. It'll wind up on P-Car, and then we'll find out when it winds up in the chum bucket what this guy actually wants for the car. So JP, 75 to you, and at my bid, I think it's an FTS. What's your bid, and do you think it'll sell for it?
Yeah, I think your number would definitely result in a no sale. If I own this car, I wouldn't sell it for 75 grand.
No.
The last one I saw for sale anywhere, really, I mean, I don't remember seeing one of these on BAT or any of the auctions. Like, I don't know if we've ever seen one of these, honestly. I'm sure one has come up before, but there was one on the PCA marketplace 6 months ago, maybe a little longer, and he was asking $100,000 for it, and that car sold pretty quickly. So I think, with a flat 6, I think this kit is probably worth in that neighborhood. If people are still freaked out, I think your bid is probably right on the money. But I'm hoping that the market isn't as bad and soft as you think it is. This is not a blue chip car. This is a kit car. This is a replica car. But this is also a car that people really love and really like, and has been kind of made popular. Magnus just did a video about Keen's car. Or whose car was that? Anyways, doesn't matter. But anyways, this car is a super cool car. I'm going to say $85,000 and also say it fails to sell and give it to Sahan.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I would like for this car to bring the money that you guys are talking about, but I honestly feel like it's probably going to fail to sell sub 70. I'm going to go 68,000 fail to sell, to be honest.
Hey, all right, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
The nerds have spoken, JP. None of us think this car is going to sell. It's sitting at 25,904, and it's got 2 days to go. I mean, JP, to get to your number, it's got to go more than 200% to get to your number. I just don't see that happening. This car is so niche. The market is so soft. The news is so weird. It just feels like there's a lot of wind resistance for this car to have an easy finish. We will see when we do the next show on Sunday.
Well, yeah, I mean, the nerd herd is out there. Some people, like Philip, is saying 39 grand. I'm curious, Philip, if you think it'll sell for that, or really if you think it's worth that, or do you think it's just the market's scared, everybody's scared, so that's all it'll get to? Because, like, I think if you think this car is something like, sorry, we're having some more technical issues. If you think this car is like a 356 replica, or even a 550 replica, you're just off base. That's not what this is at all.
Yeah.
This is a completely different animal, guys. The 356s and those 550 replicas, those always have Volkswagen engines in them, right? They have 1.6 liters, or sometimes they have 2 liters, or 2.2 maybe, or something like that. But those are fiberglass. A lot of times they're built on, Volkswagen Beetle platforms. This is a completely different category. It'll be really interesting. I think this will be kind of telling to see what this car brings, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the seller. Or maybe I'll sell one of my cars before then. Yeah, that's not gonna happen, because I'd sure like to get this car. I would definitely take this car over either of the Porsches that I own. All right, what do you guys think of let us know in the comments below. Let's move on to the next car. We're a little bit behind. Sorry about that, guys.
All right, JP, currently on Bring a Trailer is a one-owner 2010 Aston Martin Rapide. This car is being offered for sale by our buddies down at More Imports in Monterey, California. The car has 36,000 miles on it and is offered in this very interesting shade of what's called hardly green finished example. Is a hardly green finished example. So that's the name of the color, I guess. And a sandstorm leather upholstery. JP, it's a 6-liter normally aspirated V12 with a 6-speed automatic. This was Aston Martin's sort of answer to the Panamera, really, because it's a 4-door gasoline engine platform. And it's distinctly Aston Martin. It's a pretty car. But this car, to the best of my knowledge, JP, this car was never a commercial success. I don't think any car that Aston has ever sold has been a commercial success in the United States. I scratch my head all the time and wonder how they're still in business. I think they make very beautiful cars, but they just don't hold the cachet in the States the way they are looked at and lusted after in Europe, especially everywhere around the UK, where they're just, cliche or not, they're royalty. Everybody loves these cars. But in the US, they're a tough sell. 6-liter V12 only made 470 horsepower, 443 pound-foot of torque. JP, maybe they should have slapped a couple of turbos on it and got to 600 horsepower, and then people would have been interested. This is a Carfax verified one-owner car. JP, these are super soft in the secondary market. Add to the fact that it's this just unbelievably feminine shade of green, and I don't think this car has hardly anything going for it. I'll try to look up what the MSRP is while you and Sahan talk about the car, and we'll come back to that number. But I'm going to tell you, JP, I'm struggling to see if this car is worth even 35 or 40 cents on the dollar from what it was brand new. And it's got fairly low miles at just 36,000. JP, I hand over to you the Aston Martin Rapide. I bet most car guys don't even know what this is. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this car's dead on arrival. I love, our friends over at Moore. They're good people, and we're definitely going to keep our fingers crossed for them. But in a soft market, a shaky market, anything where people are kind of, holding back, this is not quality inventory. This is something that, look, unless you're willing to dump it, nobody is looking for a Rapide. There are so many options in the big luxury 4-door saloons, and you're right, Deeb, nobody ever really liked these. I just, what do you do with this car? This car, even if you can get it for a steal at, like you said, 30 cents or 20 cents on the dollar, great. In a year, this car will be 20 cents on whatever you pay for it. Sahan, what do you think of this boat anchor?
Oh, man. This car sucks.
Yeah.
This is rough. There's just the thing about this car is that it doesn't do anything better than any other car. There are so many sedans, luxury sedans that look nicer than this car, that will break less than this car. And when they do break, will be less expensive than this car. The only value of this car would be if somebody could buy it for like $10,000 and put it on airbags and lay it out at a car show. They would be the only one with it. That's if you put nice enough wheels on it and laid it out at a car show, it would be really cool in that shade of color, and nobody would have one. So that's of value. But then I don't even want to talk about what happens when those headlights fog up, which they're about to in like 10 seconds. I was like, it's just this is. I think John is right. This was a poor choice. This is not good inventory.
What's it going to bring?
All right, JP, hear me out on this. The base price of a 2010 Aston Martin Rapide is $202,000. You gotta figure almost all of them have around $20,000 to $30,000 worth of options on that car. So the MSRP on this car was likely around $220,000 plus, and then add another 10% for tax and tags, and you get the sense that this guy was in this car almost $250,000. Our car is currently sitting at $40,000 on. There's so many photos of this thing, and it didn't help. On just 4 bids, and it closes in 2 days. JP, Sahan, I'm glad you guys are sitting down. I hope everybody in the Nerd Herd is sitting down. The average price of an Aston Martin Rapide in the secondary market is just $52,000. And John, I cannot tell you how this car is worth more than 1 penny more than that. So despite being fairly low miles, despite being very decent condition, despite being an unusual, and I mean very rare shade of hardly green metallic paint, and a fairly decent presentation, as the boys down at Moore's Imports always do, I don't think this car is worth more than the average, and I'm going to give you the bid of just $52,000. But I would say at 52 grand, I don't think it'll sell. My guess is this guy's looking for $80,000. Honey, that ain't happening.
Yep, I'm gonna go 45. Say it finds another $5,000, but I think this car is just like I said before, it's DOA. Sahan, where are you at?
I mean, I'd be surprised if it didn't go backwards and all of a sudden go to 15 grand. But
I'm shocked. Yeah, I'm with you, son. I'm shocked it's at 40 now. Like I would not. I would not pay $40,000 for this car. I wouldn't pay plenty for this car
ever. Oh my God, I don't know. I'm with you, John. I think this thing, I guess somebody wants this car, and if they do, maybe they're gonna spend $48,000, or they're gonna attempt to spend $48,000 on it, and then God is gonna do them a favor, and it's gonna fail to sell, and then they're gonna go buy a 7 Series or so. Really, like, what? Who's buying this car for $52,000?
This doesn't even make sense for a baller on the budget, because at $50,000 you have real options of cars that are way better than this one. If you can get it for 25, okay, I could see a stripper driving this car back and forth in Vegas until it breaks, and then she's got to get her baby mama or baby daddy to come and pay for the repairs and stuff like that.
At German Motors.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this car, JP, I think this car should have run no reserve. I think it would have found 50 or 60 grand if it ran no reserve.
Yeah, I think that's true. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. Nerd Herd has a lot to say about it, but we're gonna move on because who cares about it now? Let's move on to the next car.
All right, JP, you selected for us a 2012 Lamborghini Aventador LP704 Coupe that is currently listed on P-Car Market out of Lisle, Illinois. The car is showing essentially 27,000 miles, and is this very interesting matte black wrap that's on the car. JP, did you know that this car previously ran in July of 2024? So just a couple of days ago, this car ran on Bring a Trailer, where it failed to sell at $201,000 on 6 bids, and that closed on Wednesday, July 10th at 12 noon. So it failed to sell at 200 grand. Our car is on P-Car Market, and JP, this auction closes in less than 17 hours, and there are no bids yet and only 2 comments. What the F is going on at P-Car Market that they can't even solicit $1 for a Lamborghini Aventador with less than 18 hours, 17 hours to close? What are they doing? Is this auction platform in peril? Are they is it for sale and we don't know about it yet? Like, who is the white knight that's going to come in and say P-Car Market? If I was the guy that listed this car, knowing that my car only made 200 grand on BAT, but I thought, all right, I'll just give it another shot and run it on P-Car Market. And at going into the last night before the close, I don't have a bid yet. You're humiliating people. You're burning cars. This is a catastrophe, JP. I talk about cringe. I'm so humiliated for both the platform and the seller, and the poor car has feelings too. This is what a mess, JP. I don't know what to tell you. The average selling price of an Aventador should be $250,000. So when this thing hit 200 a couple days ago on BAT, they basically missed it by 25% for this particular car. Maybe just 20% because it's got a few miles on it. And the matte black, I think, is a little played. But look, it's a badass car at a great value for the money. But the idea that you're going to bring it here and somehow do better, this is, oh my God. I don't even have words to tell you how pathetic this presentation is. Same assets, and they didn't take any new pictures because P-Car Market was just hey, P-Car, yes, we'll list that car for you, and then we just throw it up with the same assets. It's a disaster in marketing. You burnt the car. Just a mess. JP, say something about this because it's actually getting me really angry. This is pathetic.
I mean, we all know how much I love P-Car Market. They've been running a lot of ads I've seen lately where they kind of do this cherry picking thing. They run these ads where, oh, here's an example of a car that BAT tried to sell, and then it failed to sell on BAT. And when we tried to sell it here at PCAR Market, it made that much more. And they cherry picked examples. Kind of, I haven't seen an ad with our friend, the Flying Hawaiian, Dave Kealoha, but he's a good example of someone that did try to sell his car on BAT and actually put it on PCAR Market and got more money for it. But, that's true. And then you look at what actually happened. He tried to sell his outlaw classic Porsche 911 on Bring a Trailer in the dead of winter, and it didn't make the reserve that he wanted, and then he brought it back for sale on PCAR Market in the middle of the buying season last summer, and it made $30,000 or $40,000 more dollars. Well, it would have if it wound up back on BAT.
Well, and it also, he brought the car to Las Vegas and gave it to you and had you shoot all new assets for a brand new marketing campaign as the car came back to market, which I think is really important factor here, because this car, it definitely doesn't have new assets.
Yeah, I would like to see examples of cars that failed to sell on BAT, then were immediately listed on PCAR Market, and then brought more money, because I can't think of ever seeing that happen. This is a cool car. As much as I ish all over PCAR Market, I don't necessarily think that this massive failure is all their fault this time. There is a lot going on, and we always talk about how BAT really is 90% of the market, and everyone else in this game is competing for that last 10%. So PCAR Market, I think, is going to be in trouble. They are on the margin. They have a bad reputation, and when this car fails to get even a single bid tomorrow or whenever it goes to close, it's not going to look good for them. Sahan, what do you think of this listing? What do you think of this car?
I think the seller assumed that it didn't make it because of the turmoil that happened this weekend. I mean, I guess it closed on the 15th, so a couple of days ago. I think the assumption for the seller is that people were distracted, and so they didn't get the last couple of bids that would have got it to the place that they wanted it to be.
Can I hop in there? It
closed on the 10th.
It closed on the 10th. That was before.
Okay.
What was
the 15th?
The 15th is, or the 13th or something like that is when it.
Then I'm with Buddha, and it's gonna go to the chum bucket and sell for 200 something in the chum bucket. I don't understand that. It's a cool car. Obviously, it's not like I wouldn't drive it, but it doesn't seem like this is a special car. It's just an expensive Lambo, right?
Yeah, and aren't these kind of long in the tooth, guys? I mean, this body style has been around a while. This is a 2012, and isn't the current SVJ, or at least the one that they stopped making a year or two ago, 21, 22, 23? Rami's SVJ looked exactly like this. Obviously, it was an SVJ, so it had more whiz-bang stuff on it. But I think for people that want these crazy high-end hyper cars, they want the latest thing. They want a flex. That's the whole reason they're buying. Nobody needs this car. The people that are buying this are trying to get they're trying to get street cred, or they're trying to blow up their Instagram page or whatever. And this car is probably, this is a great way to, you can buy this car, put an SVJ badge on the side of it. I don't know. I just, again, DOA. Let's get to the numbers. What do we think it will bring or won't bring?
JP, the one thing we didn't talk about is, do we think part of the reason why this car's got no bids yet is because we know that when you bid on PCAR Market, they want to hold the money. And are they now, especially with an expensive, people look at this and they go, okay, it's a $250,000 car. So if I'm really going to seriously bid on this thing, I'm going to bid, 60 grand, 100 grand, 150 grand, just to get my hat in the, throw my hat in the ring and be part of this auction. That so many thousands of dollars are going to be held on their card, while PCAR Market tries to suss out who won this thing, and who knows when they'll return your money for you if you didn't win. So are they finally scaring their own audience out of bidding on their cars? Is the other question I wanted to ask you about this car, as it's sitting with 16 hours and 42 minutes till it closes, and it doesn't have any bids yet. Do you want to comment on that before we jump to the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, if you bid 200, or let's say you bid $185,000, right? PCAR Market is going to put a hold on your credit card and your account for 5% of that. So however many thousands of dollars that is, that's going to be tucked away in some holding account, right? Would anyone at all be surprised if PCAR Market went out of business tomorrow? We have heard so many stories when big, like, I'll bring up our good friend Rami again. We're in the Rami studio. Rami bought one of those G squared G wagons a few years ago, and he bought it from that famous exotic car company in LA, CMC. Do you guys remember that outfit? Right? Those guys basically were taking cars on consignment. So they weren't paying for cars. They were taking customer cars. They were selling them, getting deposits, getting those cars financed. They would keep the deposits in order to pay the bills to keep the lights open. They were robbing from Peter to pay Paul.
What a mess.
Rami bought a $200,000 SUV that he had financed. Luckily, he had given them money for the car. He had traded something in, and he bought this new car, and he was still making payments on the car that he traded in. Luckily, it was just like automatically coming out of his account. He's one of those guys that can handle that, right? He kept making payments on the car that he traded in for something like 6 months because CMC didn't pay off his loan.
Oh,
so he
Jesus.
drove back to LA, walked in there, and demanded that they cut him a check. He took the finance guy, made him go to the bank, and had them write a bank check on the spot to make him whole so that his car could get paid off. He's the last guy that got any money out of CMC. CMC went under like literally a few weeks later. And a lot of people lost hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars. Would anyone at all be surprised if the same thing happened to PCAR Market and the dealership that they run? I'm not saying that is. I have no evidence. This is pure speculation. But let's be honest. Would any of us be surprised if somebody said, "Oh yeah, it turns out PCAR Market is a big scam and they've been robbing from Peter to pay Paul"? Would everybody go, "No way"? They'd be like, "Oh yeah, that adds up." I would be very, 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 very scared to give PCAR money at all for anything. If you do, beware. But just watch your ass these days, guys. All right. That said, what do we think this Aventador will bring? Will it bring anything? Michael Deeb, you're first up.
JP, so again, our car just closed on Wednesday, July 10th. Won 16 bids at $201,000 where it failed to sell on BAT. It closes tomorrow and has no bids yet. JP, I do think people wait till the last minute now on PCAR Market, and they're throwing their hats in the ring only with the intent of trying to buy the car. So somehow, some way, I actually think this car will hammer at around $160,000 where it will fail to sell. That'll be $40,000 shy of what it just walked away from a week ago, and probably wind up in the chum bucket for around $250,000 because that's the average price of an Aventador. So my guess is this guy just wants fair money for his car, and so I'm going to say he's looking for $250 in the chum. But I do think that somebody will open the bidding at like 80 grand, and it'll probably get 3 or 4 bids and get up to around 150. In this case, my bid of 160, but I don't think it's going to come anywhere near the number it failed to sell at on BAT. So 160 to you, JP, 250 in the chum bucket if you want to give us that number too, but 160 to you. Do you think it'll get that high, or are you more, should I say, bearish on this one?
Why would anybody bother bidding $160,000 on this car if you know it just failed to sell at $201,000? You know you're not getting there. Why have your money tied up? I don't think this car gets a single bid. Not even one. It's the first time I'm going to say that this car brings $0 because unlike BAT, you can bid, okay, fine, I can bid $50 or I can bid $5,000. Maybe I get this Lambo, right? And it's not going to cost anything. They're not going to put a hold on anything. But this car, if you bid anything, they're going to put a hold on your credit card. Andy Stahl brings up the point that if you make a bid and they hold the money, your credit card is going to make you whole on that. So I'm not suggesting that PCAR Market is going to steal your money that they hold And I don't know if there's any mechanism for them to do that. So don't get me wrong there. But I think that they would hold it up for as long as they. We've heard stories where sometimes it takes up to a month to get your deposit back. So, anyways, that said, yeah, I think this thing is a big old bubkiss. Sahan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's either zero or somebody on the very last day at the last minute puts in a bid of 200 and change and tries to get it at that. If there's no bids and somebody's like, "Oh, I want this car, they're worth 250. I wonder if I can get it for 210 or something like that." Maybe that person will bid 210 and try to get away with it.
There you go.
Or at least, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say one or two bids and just clearing 200, so 210.
All right. So JP, the $210,000 to your $0 might be the biggest spread between two bids we've ever had. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
the car market.
And look, so maybe this guy has had a come to Jesus moment. I mean, maybe he saw that it didn't sell for 201. And then he saw what happened on Saturday and he was like, holy crap. Now what? Things are only going to get worse. If somebody actually does want this car, right? I mean, I think one of the benefits of P-car market and their shadiness, one of the shady things that actually can be, look, if you came in and bid $180 for this car, you're going to get a phone call from the guys over at P-car market. And they are going to be calling the seller, and they're going to be putting all kind of pressure. They're going to be like, "Don't you know someone's trying to kill the president? You got to sell this car for nothing," right? And then they're going to use every trick in the book to try to get the seller to sell the damn thing. And maybe that's an opportunity. We know our friend Anthony from Oursmiths loves P-car market because it's a little scuzzy, but that can be an opportunity to actually get a good deal. So if you actually do want this car and you have that, and maybe now's the time to get it for less than $200,000, and maybe this is the way to do it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. That is a show for tonight.
JP,
yeah, go for it.
let's jump in for a quick second. Welcome a couple of new Nerd Herd members. Kevin Maloney is joining and saying hi to everybody in the chats. Welcome, Kevin Maloney from Canada. Kevin, you got to let us know what part of Canada you're from, because I don't think most of the herd speaks French, so we hope it's from the West. And then Mick, who's joining us from Australia. Welcome, Mick.
Hey,
good
another
evening.
guy from the other side of the ocean here. All right.
Yeah.
You and Ross better not get in a fight. You guys be nice to one another.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
Kiwis
and kangaroos. Kiwis and kangaroos. So, just goes to show you, we're like Citizen Kate. We're big in Japan. There you go, JP. Just want to say hi to the new members of the herd. Thank you guys for joining
welcome
us.
you guys. And again, there's more of you in the comments right now than there are thumbs up. Let's get some thumbs up, guys. I know you love us, and we love you. So return the love here. Give us a thumbs up. Sahan, how do we find you on the socials and all that kind of stuff? Anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
I mean, the Persian Pillow and Sirius63 on Instagram. Otherwise, you can find me on this show or at Cars Cafe.
Yes.
Cars Cafe every last Sunday.
My co-host. Yeah.
Please, if you're in the Bay Area, come see us out there. We're parked, we're drinking coffee, and we're talking shit about cars, or talking crap about cars.
Yeah.
It's the end of the show. If you're gonna drop F-bombs, now's the time at the end before we get. We won't get a strike.
Hopefully, I'll show up in a new car next week.
Yeah, that might just happen. All right.
Hey, so Yuri's going to be coming home from the Philippines, and we're taking a big entourage, JP, of cars down to LA on Saturday, August 3rd for the Mechanisma Italian car show in downtown LA. So if you're in Northern California and you want to go down with us, we're going to go down like Thursday and come back on Sunday. If you're in the LA area and you want to come hang out with us, we'll probably have dinner Thursday night, go for a drive on Friday, and then we'll be at the show on Saturday. We'll probably go have some drinks on Saturday night, and then Sunday we're coming back home. JP, I hope you can fly out to San Francisco, and I'll give you an Alpha to drive down. Sahan, if JP doesn't show up, the car is yours. You can roll with me, or you can just drive your own car, and we'll go have some fun. But it should be a good time. Anybody in the herd that wants to hang out with us and do some Italian cars, reach out to either JP and I in the chats, and let's get together. This should be a fun thing. JP, it just feels like they're on the cusp of making something really big, kind of like what was the
It's
one
like
Luft
Luft 1,
was?
right?
Yeah, in its infancy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is essentially like Luft 2. And I think it's going to be a really big deal, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So I hope you can join us.
Excellent. All right, guys. What was I going to say? Anthony, safe travels. Hope you get home back to Idaho safely in your new 996. And we will see you all Sunday night at 6:30 live. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you, Sahan. Yeah, sweet.